Li Jun has traveled through time. Both parents died, and my wife eloped. Is it miserable? Actually, it's not a disaster. Li Jun's sad discovery is even more tragic. There are mountain gods, river gods, well gods, city gods, and all kinds of ghosts and monsters in this world. Human beings are at the bottom of the food chain. Being cannibalized, being kept in captivity. Human beings have no ability to protect themselves. What should Li Jun do? This article has been signed with an outline of 50,000 words. Investment packages make money, welcome daily reminders. Keywords of the novel. Horizontally pushing the strange world for 90,000 miles without pop-ups, horizontally pushing the strange world for 90,000 miles. Download the complete set of TXT, horizontally pushing the strange world for 90,000 miles. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. A legitimate son is better than a slave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. A legitimate son is better than a slave on Anping County, in the mountains and forests on the outskirts. At this time, it is the cold winter season, with all things withering in the cold wind howling. The weather is dry and cold, and many poor people are working on firewood in the mountains. There is a young man in his 20s, wearing tattered clothes and waving an axe in his hand, struggling to cut down dead branches, panting heavily from exhaustion. Compared to other poor people, he has fair skin, a straight figure, and a decent appearance. After tying a bundle of firewood, he carried the dry firewood on his back and rushed home. A farmer he knew greeted him, appearing polite. After he passed by, he began to discuss things. Li Jun is also pitiful enough. Since his father Li Er took in his concubine, he no longer cared about his mother and son and only lived comfortably with her in the city. Men become bad when they have money. We can't blame Li Er either. Li Er is a scholar, and when he was young, his poor family couldn't afford it. He had to marry a girl from the Wang family, help with farm work, and support the elderly. Only then can Li Er focus on studying. Li Ershu has read it out and passed the imperial examination. He can also be considered a prestigious figure in Anping County. The Wang family girl is crude, how can she still be worthy of him? Yeah, Li Er's heart is not bad either. After getting rich, he didn't divorce his wife. At least he let his original wife live in the old house, which can be considered worthy of the Wang family. Later on, Li Er gave birth to Li Qi, who was particularly intelligent. He entered the county school at a young age, and Li Jun, a peasant woman, was so clumsy that she was about to die. Li Jun sneered at himself and walked far away, still able to hear the discussions of the farmers. His 5 senses were stronger than those of ordinary people. He is also known as Li Jun, a traveler. His current identity is the eldest son and legitimate eldest son of Li Ju's family in Anping County. In theory, the Ju people of this era were considered to be in high positions, and their legitimate sons were born with a golden spoon in their mouth. They did not have to worry about food and clothing, so they did not fall to this level. Mainly, Li Juren, the cheap father, dislikes him and his mother. His mother, the daughter of an authentic peasant family, was also a famous pretty girl from all over the country when she was young. The pretty girl later married his cheap father, who was the poor scholar Li Er. Li Er's family was poor, and his widowed mother worked hard to support him in education. Later, her poor health prevented her from doing farm work. Li Er has no means to tie a chicken in his hands, and he also wants to achieve fame. In order to make a living, he can only marry a farmer's daughter by holding his nose. That's Li Jun's mother, Wang Xiuxiu. Wang Xiuxiu is illiterate, but virtuous. She works in the fields during the day and stays up late at night to weave fabrics. A woman supports a home, allowing Li Er to focus on her studies. 10 years. Wang Xiuxiu boiled into a yellow-faced woman. Li Er passed the imperial examination and achieved great success. In theory, Wang Xiuxiu finally managed to endure a good life. Unfortunately, Li Er has long despised the yellow-faced woman. He married her to work as a cow and horse in the Li family. How could he share wealth and prosperity with her? Li Er never gave up on her, fearing that her bad reputation would affect her official career. Facing the yellow-faced woman every day, he died of diaphragm. Later, he simply moved to the city, took in an extramarital room, and gave birth to a son. The family of 3 was happy and harmonious. Li Erji was born in the wind and dust of his outer chamber, and some methods were used to win over men. Within a few days, Li Erji's attire was obedient. Li Jun was pondering his thoughts as he walked towards his home, only to see a dilapidated thatched cottage in his sight, with a yellow dog lying outside. The earth-yellow dog is very small and was picked up by Li Jun. It calls itself Qilin and has been kept at home. The yellow dog looked up. Glancing at Li Jun, he silently signaled that someone was coming to Li Jun's house. Upon seeing it, Li Jun saw a soft blue cloth sedan parked at the door. 2 sedan bearers sat outside the gate chatting, and when they saw Li Jun, they deliberately sneered with a contemptuous expression in their eyes. Li Jun frowned and pushed open the door to enter. A woman with a seductive figure, beautiful appearance, and thick makeup appeared in her line of sight. My younger sister hasn't come to visit her for a long time. Is her body and bones okay? The woman with heavy makeup is Li Er's outer room. Pan's family. Pan's attire is much stronger than her original match Wang Xiuxiu. Today, she is dressed in a red dress and green coat, with a pearl hairpin and emerald jade hairpin on her head, and a pair of red gold bracelets in her hands. She is dressed very beautifully in this water. Wang Xiuxiu was wearing a coarse cloth skirt, with a thorny hairpin on her head and tattered shoes on her feet. She said awkwardly, "Thank you for taking the trouble, sister. I'm in good health." Wang Xiuxiu lowered her head with inferiority and cowardice. Pan covered her lips and smiled. "Oh, Li Jun, you've grown so big. Come and let Auntie take a look." Pan saw Li Jun enter the room and affectionately called him over, as if he liked Li Jun. Li Jun stood quietly at the door, silent. Pan's eyes showed a hint of sarcasm, and he said, "Li Qi, you and your brother are going out to play. I'll talk to your mother about being considerate." "Yes, mother." Li Qi bowed to Pan Shi, looked up at Li Jun, and walked out on his own, followed by a book boy. Li Jun smiled slightly and followed out. "Big brother, do you understand etiquette?" Li Jun remained silent and stared at Li Qi. Li Qi sneered. "I guess my older brother doesn't understand etiquette. The gift I gave to my mother just now was taught by the city gentleman. The gentleman taught us to understand etiquette and shame. Why can't you be polite when you see my aunt?" Li Jun smiled faintly and said, "In terms of etiquette, my mother is the eldest mother. As an outsider, you don't worship your legitimate mother, but you worship your illegitimate mother." "Oh no, even Pan's illegitimate mother can't be considered a concubine," Li Jun added. "You're reckless." Li Qi's face turned red and his neck was thick. He had grown up in wealth since childhood, and how could he look up to Li Jun, this big brother? In his mind, sooner or later his father will abandon his mother, and his mother will be able to marry into the Li family with integrity. "Young master, don't be angry with Mud Legs. Mud Legs doesn't recognize a single character, and you're so angry that your body isn't worth it," the nearby book boy quickly advised. The book boy was dressed in a new cotton jacket, with a shiny face. Obviously, the food was good, and his gaze towards Li Jun was also contemptuous. Li Jun remained silent. Cheap father Li Er doesn't like Wang Xiuxiu, and he also doesn't like Li Jun. Not only has he not personally taught him knowledge, but he has not even been allowed to attend the Enlightenment school. In this era, scholars have a sense of superiority when facing Bai Ding. No wonder Li Qi looks down on Li Jun. After Li Er moved to the city, he never gave a penny to Wang Xiuxiu. Wang Xiuxiu relied on farming to make a living and lived a miserable life. The days were too hard, and Li Jun's body was weak from a young age. He died of a cold and illness, and it was only then that he crossed over. Li Jun sneered and ignored the two beggars. He simply walked into the kitchen with dry firewood and started a fire to cook. Wang Xiuxiu had been working hard for half her life, and her body was hollowed out. Li Jun felt sorry for her and suggested doing more work to make Wang Xiuxiu feel more relaxed. Pan didn't leave until evening. Li Jun walked up to Wang Xiuxiu with a bowl of steamed buns and a bowl of wild vegetable soup. The rice is cooked. Li Jun's journey has not been long, and the words, mother, really cannot be spoken of. Wang Xiuxiu smiled gently and said, let's put it aside for now. Mom, let me tell you something big. What's going on? Your father will pick you up to study in the city in a few days. Gentlemen, when you come to the city in the future, you should listen to your aunt's words, study hard, and stand out. Auntie. Li Jun sneered, she's just an extramarital, what kind of aunt is she? Wang Xiuxiu shook her head and said sorrowfully, your father dotes on her, and it will be a matter of time before he takes her as a concubine. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Entering the City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Entering the City, not necessarily. Li Jundao said, according to the law of the Great Jin dynasty, a concubine is not allowed to be a wife. If Li Er abandons you as a concubine of the Pan family, he will never be able to be a wife. Li Jun asked the old man in the village, saying that a concubine cannot be a wife, but an outsider can marry in as a legitimate wife. The premise is that the legitimate wife falls ill and dies. Or he may have committed the 7-out rule. Wang Xiuxiu is diligent and frugal in managing her family, hardworking and willing to complain. She even gave birth to her eldest son Li Jun, but she can never break the rule of the 7 outs. Li Er dotes on Pan Shi, but has been secretly raising her and does not accept her as a concubine. His heart is evident. Is he waiting for Wang Xiuxiu to die of illness, or is it that he can't wait anymore? I won't go to the city to study, I'm afraid they'll kill me, Li Jun said succinctly. Tiger Poison doesn't eat his own son yet. You are his biological son, how could he harm you? Wang Xiuxiu became angry and her face turned even paler. Your father just doesn't like me. He still likes you very much. Pack up your things today and go to the city tomorrow. What can you make of yourself by chopping firewood every day? Wang Xiuxiu has no culture and is stubborn in nature. No matter how much Li Jun tries to persuade her, she won't let go and forces Li Jun to leave. Li Jun stopped persuading and let out a long sigh. Wang Xiuxiu may be a bit stubborn, but she truly loves her son. She hopes that his son will rise to fame and become a successful candidate, and not become a mere thug for the rest of her life. Li Jun, however, did not aspire to this. If this were an ordinary ancient world, Li Jun would try to study and achieve fame, but unfortunately, this world is not normal. On the surface, this is an ancient feudal society with superstition, backwardness, poverty, and ignorance. Actually, there are ghosts, demons, spirits, and monsters. At night, ghosts and monsters roam in the darkness, and Li Jun has yin and yang eyes that can see them. Ho ho ho, the sound of digging soil came from the corner of the wall, and Li Jun looked gloomily over. Outside the nearby pig house, a female ghost lay on the ground with a fierce face and sharp claws, desperately digging the soil. Since Li Jun crossed over, this female ghost has existed. At night, she spends the whole night digging the earth, not to mention being too terrifying. Dogs tell him. This kind of earth-bound spirit has low strength and cannot harm people at all. As the yin energy in the earth dissipates, the earth-bound spirit will slowly dissipate. The big dog is the earthy yellow dog. Self-proclaimed Qilin. Li Jun occasionally picked up an egg from the wild and accidentally hatched it with his golden finger. He inexplicably signed a master-servant contract with Li Jun. Li Jun's golden finger is very simple. His right arm has some strange power that can harm ghosts and monsters. The golden finger is very strange. Wang Xiuxiu finished dinner and went to bed. Li Jun, hurry up and collect the earth-binding spirit. Let's go to the city for development, said the earth-yellow dog, spitting out words. Li Er clearly didn't have a good heart. Shouldn't I go and fall into the trap? Li Jun said calmly. You can't spend your whole life in the mountains and wilderness. Don't worry, even though I haven't regained my strength, it's not a problem to take out just ordinary people. Li Jun thought for a moment, then looked at his right arm and resolutely walked towards the ground-bound spirit, standing quietly beside it. The earth-binding spirit did not look at Li Jun. The perspectives of humans and ghosts are different. It only has a mud wall in its eyes, desperately scraping and scraping, with broken nails and blood dripping profusely. Li Junmeng reached out and grabbed her neck, his right arm emitting a faint red light that seeped into the body of the earth-binding spirit. Ho ho ho, ho ho, the earth-binding spirit bulged its eyes and finally saw Li Jun. It stared at Li Jun with resentment, its claws hooked like a hook, stabbing Li Jun but leaving nothing behind. Its strength was too weak to harm Li Jun. Slowly, the earth-bound spirit's gaze softened and turned into a well-behaved girl. Li Jun received her memory. The girl's original name was Qinjiayue. She was the adopted daughter-in-law of a certain generation of Lierzu. One day, while cooking, she made some sandwiches. Her mother-in-law was furious and scalded to death with hot water. She chopped it into minced meat and fed it to the pigs. Upon hearing the girl's mournful scream, Li Jun immediately shuddered and said, in feudal society, it's really cannibalistic. In the future, you will still be called Qinjiayue. Obey me. Qinjiayue said expressionlessly. Li Jun traveled through several months and finally received her first ghost soldier. Unfortunately, the ghost soldier was unconscious and Li Jun could not communicate with her, so he could only give orders. The next day, Li Jun packed up his things, bid farewell to Wang Xiuxiu, and embarked on the road to the city with Gouda and Qinjiayue. Quickly, we arrived at Li Er's outer residence. This is a green brick and tile house with a courtyard of 3 entrances and 3 exits. There is a servant guarding the door at the entrance. Although the servant was wearing a green cloth robe, it was not patched and was slowly chewing a plate of peanuts. Dog de Chuan said, "Scum, beast. When I see Li Er, I will bite him to death, spoil my concubine, destroy my wife, and abuse my legitimate son." Li Jun patted the dog's head and said, "Stay calm." Before crossing over, Li Jun also thought that the position of the main wife was invincible, and even the little concubine had to live by her face. It wasn't until I traveled that I realized it was built on the strong foundation of the legitimate family. Who are you looking for? The servant at the door looked at Li Jun with an unpleasant expression on his face. Li Jun smiled faintly and said, "I am Li Jun." The servant quickly respectfully said, "It turns out that the young master has arrived. Please come in quickly. Madam is looking forward to your arrival day and night." Okay, everyone under Pan's command called her Madam, which clearly shows that she didn't take Wang Xiuxiu seriously. "Thank you," Li Jun pretended to be polite. Li Jun walked into the house, and a hint of contempt appeared in the eyes of the servant at the door. After Li Jun walked away, he spat. "Pooh, poor son. Everyone in the mansion knows that the only wives and children in the master's heart are Lady and Master Qi. What kind of young master are you, a wild seed born to a peasant woman?" Li Jun entered Li Er's mansion, but Li Er and Pan Shi did not come to see him. They only sent a woman over to greet him. "Yo, the young master has finally returned home. I see that the young master is really handsome, and I will definitely make a name for myself in the future. My surname is Shui, and the young master can call me Shui Granny. Li Jun nodded lightly. Grandma Shui arranged for Li Jun to stay in the guest room, turned around and left. Not long after, she brought a bowl of white rice, a plate of vegetables, and several plates of pickled vegetables, radish, and pickled vegetables. Young master, please use it slowly. I'm leaving now. Li Jun nodded. Grandma Shui walked to the door with a smile, closed it, and suddenly turned around and spat, "Pooh, poor guy. 8 out of 10 have never eaten white rice. Let's eat it, let's eat it. This is a decapitated meal, and even if you go underground, you can become a starving ghost." After Shui Posi walked away, Li Jun picked up a green vegetable and the dog sniffed it loudly. "It's not poisonous, feel free to eat it." Li Jun casually started eating, and while eating, he asked Gouda, "Mrs. Shui should be Li Er's close maid, otherwise she wouldn't know such a confidential matter." Li Jun has stronger hearing than ordinary people. He heard everything Shui Posi said outside the door just now. "Li Jun, your heart is big enough. Your father is going to kill you, and you can still eat without changing your face." Li Jun smiled faintly and said, "Why am I angry? I didn't treat him like a father, but how would they harm me?" End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The Art of Replacing Death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The Art of Replacing Death. As night falls, the Milky Way shines brightly. Li Jun arrived at the main house and leaned against the door to eavesdrop. "Madam, are you really going to do this? At least Li Jun is also my son." Li Er's voice came out. Pan sneered and said, "Humph, Li Jun is your son, so Li Qi is not. Do you want to watch Qi Er die?" "Oh my goodness, don't cry, madam. If my husband is wrong, just casually mention it. The wicked son born to a peasant woman is also worthy of being my son Li Er. Grandma Shui, have you put the death talisman in place?" "Master, put it away." Then, Li Er and Pan waved back Shui Posi, cut the candles, and the room fell into darkness. Li Jun let out a sigh. Tiger poison doesn't even eat its seeds. Before Li Jun read history, an emperor of the former Han dynasty favored Zhao Fian and Zhao Heda, 2 sisters. In order to please the 2 sisters, he strangled his own children. Li Jun thought it was a fiction in historical books, but now it seems that not everything dressed in human skin can be called human, some are just animals. Li Jun's original identity is not worth it. Returning to the guest room and rummaging through the boxes and cabinets, Li Jun finally found a white paper figure under the mattress, with Li Jun's name written on the back. Li Jun pinched the white paper figure and said, "Is this the symbol for death?" Dog Avenue. It seems that Li Qi has been targeted by some evil person. This death symbol is meant for you to die for him. Tear it off. Suddenly. Dong dong dong. In the quiet night, the sound of knocking on the door was very clear, knocking on people's hearts. Who is knocking on the door? The dog listened attentively for a moment and said, "It's here. The process of replacing death has been completed. Don't tear it, it's useless." Upon hearing Go Da's words, Li Jun understood in his heart that a ghost was knocking on the door. He stared at the door cautiously and did not open it. The knocking on the door outside was persistent, like a mechanical sound, thumping, 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 thumping at a special frequency. After ringing for a long time, something outside finally spoke up. The female voice whispered, "Is there anyone inside? I'm so cold and scared. Please open the door for me to take shelter." Li Jun remained silent. "Li Jun, Li Jun, Li Jun." The voice of the ghost was cold and icy, with one sound pressing against the other, and the sound fluctuated between near and far, fluctuating. Li Jun shut up, he just didn't agree. Legend has it that when someone calls your name at night, never agree, because it may be a ghost. As soon as you agree, the ghost will harm you. Li Jun simply closed his eyes and let the ghost outside knock on the door, calling his name. Suddenly, the window opened and a gust of cold air blew in, blowing some paper money from the road. It couldn't spiral down, and the room was instantly cold. He, I found you. A faint female voice rang in Li Jun's ear, numb. Li Jun opened his eyes and saw a woman in red, with a pale complexion and blood dripping from her skirt. Surprisingly, it's a female ghost in red. I heard that you are the harshest female ghosts in red. Li Jun asked curiously. Ah. The female ghost in red froze and stared at Li Jun with a strange expression. Why aren't living people afraid when they see ghosts? The female ghost had no face, her red clothes were bloodshot, her hands were like bones, and her nails were shining cold under the moonlight. Mu looked at Li Jun expressionlessly. How do you know my name is Li Jun? In folk ghost incidents, why do you ghosts know the names of living people and like to shout their names behind their backs? Can't you be a mind reader? Li Jun asked a classic question. The female ghost in red didn't speak, her eyes flickered with a cold light, and her long nails pierced Li Jun's face. With just a gentle flick, she could peel off the skin. Li Jun quickly retreated, activated his magic, and grabbed the female ghost in red with his right arm. The red light wrapped around the female ghost, and when the red light faded, Li Jun was surprised to find it. On the ground knelt a young girl with a delicate figure. She was wearing a green dress and had two girls combing her hair. Her skin was porcelain white and stiff, with a strange luster. Her small face was covered in bloodstains, one by one, and it was terrifying. Absorbed the remnants of the female ghost. The female ghost's name is Linglong. She was a palace maid from the previous dynasty's palace. A noblewoman of unparalleled color died in the palace, and Linglong chose to become a sacrificial palace maid. In order to escape the tragic fate of being buried, Linglong shaved her face with her hands and ruined her appearance, but still couldn't escape the fate of being buried. The craftsman used an awl to make a small hole in her head and poured mercury into her head, mouth, intestines, and other parts to ensure that the body would not rot for 1,000 years. Linglong has been buried underground for many years, only to recover recently. She was ordered by the noble consort to infiltrate the human world and collect blood and food. She had originally set her sights on Li Qi and made a mark on him, so she came tonight to claim her life. Unexpectedly, Pan invited an expert and obtained the skill of replacing death, so Li Jun replaced Li Qi. Is it a noble consort? Master, after the noble consort wakes up, she can share her servant's memories. Even if the servant dies, she can still obtain her servant's memories. Please make plans early, Master. The sound is exquisite and wooden. She lost her free will. Author's words. Dear readers, are you trying to kill this author when you see this? The agreed counterplot, old bookworm text. Is that all? Pooh, author of the starting point dog. Woo, the author is really not good at writing the opening, and every book's opening is subject to criticism. Sigh, it wasn't until the last 20 chapters that I slowly entered the state. This article was first published on Qidian Chinese website. Author's permanent starting point. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Conquering the Faceless Female Ghost. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Conquering the Faceless Female Ghost. The noble consort has just awakened, and her strength should not have reached its peak yet. Li Jun must meet the noble consort for a while. According to Linglong's memory, after the noble consort fully awakens, she can share her subordinates' memories. Even if my subordinates have already disappeared. After Li Jun subdued Linglong, the doors and windows were tightly closed, and he slept peacefully until early morning. The day is the world of humanity. Li Jun quietly walked out of the door. Leave without informing. I heard cries coming from outside, and the West Market was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere. Just inquire. Last night, more than 10 men went missing in the county town, with West Market accounting for the majority. Although Anping County has not been peaceful in recent years, there have never been so many missing persons. Is this world going to change? People come and go on the streets, and ordinary people live a mediocre life. Even if many people disappear, life must continue, right? Li Jun touched his body and found that not a single copper coin was left. He is now so poor that he cannot be any poorer, even today's meal money has not been found. As a time traveler with golden fingers and the ability to kill ghosts and monsters, he has actually become such a virtuous person. Li Jun wandered around the city all day. As it was getting dark, he followed Linglong's instructions and walked out of Anping County. Suburban areas. Night shrouds the heavens and the earth. A bright moon hung high in the sky, and there were faint cries coming from all around. It seemed that strange things could still be seen wandering around, with phosphorus flames and ghostly shadows. Li Jun ignored them. These things were very scary in the eyes of ordinary people, and in Li Jun's eyes, they were nothing. Zisher is about to arrive. Linglong, the female ghost, was leading the way, and Li Jun followed behind. Suddenly, the faint cries around disappeared. The monsters retreated like a tide, seemingly afraid of getting contaminated with something. A small door appeared out of thin air. The female ghost Linglong respectfully made a gesture of invitation, meaning that you, the master, will come first. Li Jun walked in casually, followed by the dog. As soon as he stepped in, he felt the sky and earth spinning around, and his resentment was strong. Trees also grow twisted, and under the invasion of resentment, they seem to be enduring endless pain. This place is too eerie. And the most eerie thing is that there is actually a sun in this space. It's just that the sunlight shining on people doesn't have any warmth, but rather feels cold and chilly. Day and night are reversed, with a disorder of yin and yang. This is not the strength of an ordinary fierce ghost. Dogs secretly transmit messages. Suddenly, a silver bell-like laughter came. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Gui Guifei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Gui Guifei. Linglong, hurry up, Empress is hungry. The speaker was a female ghost dressed as a palace maid, who was holding a plate with layers of human skin inside, trembling with fear. She followed several strong men behind her, drooling one by one, staring at the palace maids in a daze. Linglong Muron nodded. Walk to an underground palace. The underground palace is very cold, with moss growing on all its walls. The night pearl emits a faint light, and there is a painted red coffin in the center of the underground palace. The coffin was adorned with magnificent phoenixes, but it was not tightly covered, and strands of resentment continued to emerge. Suddenly, the creaking sound came from inside the coffin, like a sharp tool pulling on wood, piercing the ear and making the listener's hair stand on end. Dress up my palace. A faint female voice drifted out from the coffin. I don't know where a few palace maids emerged, holding gorgeous boxes and respectfully walking to the side of the coffin. They looked at the boxes and saw that they were all shameless. One of the famous palace maids pinched a human face and trembled as she reached into the coffin, groping for a moment. After finishing, these palace maids slowly retreated and knelt down, lowering their heads. They dared not look at the coffin, and the white maggots on their faces hid somewhere. In a moment, a green smoke slowly drifted out from the gap, and the smoke quickly condensed into a woman. The woman was wearing a bright red robe embroidered with a phoenix, very gorgeous, with red embroidered shoes exposed at the hem of the skirt. Overall, she is still a beauty. It can't be seen above the neck. She had a head hanging around her neck, twisted strangely to the side, as if it had been broken off by life. My face still curled up a corner, as if it had just been burnt and hadn't been properly burnt yet. The woman reached out her hand and slowly smoothed out her raised face, then transformed into a water mirror, admiring the beauty in the mirror with satisfaction. What seems to be missing from today's makeup? The woman suddenly spoke. Several palace maids kneeling on the ground trembled with fear upon hearing this, one by one lowering their heads and striving to reduce their sense of presence. The woman smiled and looked at one of the palace maids. Her long nails suddenly appeared in her hands, and she dug them out of the palace maids' hearts. The rotten flesh flipped over, emitting a foul-smelling thick water. The woman's lips curved into a smile, and she directly crushed the maggot. A bright blush flowed out, and she picked up this blush, slowly smudging it onto her cheeks and putting on a peach blossom makeup for herself. This. Li Jun is unable to roast. He remembers that the blood of maggots should be transparent. Who knows what these maggots have in their stomachs? The palace maid who had lost the maggot had a pale face, and her whole body was constantly dripping with decaying flesh, instantly turning into a pool of decaying water with a foul smell. The other palace maids let out a deep sigh and knelt back to both sides, looking very polite. See your concubine. The noble consort will live for 1,000 years, and her appearance will be on par with the heavens. Ling Long also knelt down. She turned out to be the Gui Guifei. Li Jun secretly looked at the noblewoman, who had a good figure. Although her face was not hers, there was a natural expression of seduction on her face. Li Jun came to a conclusion. Gui Guifei was a beauty who caused harm to the country and the people during her lifetime. After Gui Guifei put on her makeup, she slowly lifted her head and looked at the faces of the people on the plate. She nodded, very satisfied. Looking at the few men present again, their eyes lit up with green light and a strange smile appeared on their faces. A pair of red phoenix eyes swept around these men, just like picking animals. Finally, he took a liking to Li Jun, saliva flowing out of his mouth, and his teeth were thick. He slowly walked over. At this moment, Li Jun remained calm and terrifying. He stood quietly, allowing the Gui Guifei to approach. In the corner of the wall, several bones that had eaten all their flesh silently met Li Jun. Approaching, it's now. Li Jun exerted all his strength with his right hand, and suddenly, the red light shone brightly, during the period when the Gui Guifei was enveloped. His Gui Guifei had just recovered, but she didn't expect Li Jun to suddenly take action. She was both shocked and angry, her face peeling off, and her face was terrifying. Eye sockets are hollow, the nose, mouth, and ears seem to have been cut off by some sharp tool, and there is not a complete piece of skin on the face. How can a tragic word describe it? No wonder she is so persistent in pursuing people's face, it turns out that her face is gone. Hiss, who are you? Gui Guifei's strength far exceeds that of Li Jun. If it weren't for carelessness, Li Jun wouldn't be her opponent at all. At this moment, she harbored a strong hatred and opened her mouth wide, biting at Li Jun. How could Li Jun let her succeed? He raised his other arm and desperately pressed against the chin of the Gui Guifei, preventing her from biting her mouth. Salivary fluid flowed down Li Jun's arm, corroding his skin and emitting smoke. Li Jun endured immense pain but did not let go. The power of the Gui Guifei became weaker and weaker, and pieces of rotten meat fell down, turning into wisps of green smoke. A woman composed of pure resentment stands quietly, enchanting the country. Author's words. The first few chapters do have a bit of a casual style, please be patient and read through more than 10 chapters, and ensure that the rest is not blank. If it's still white, I'll eat the keyboard. Ha ha ha. Do you think this chapter is particularly brainy? The foreshadowing I laid reflects that the protagonist's fate is beyond his control, and it is only through his hard work to break free from it in the later stages that he looks good. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Encountering Mingsheng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Encountering Mingsheng. Li Jun was in excruciating pain all over, bleeding profusely. The ghost consort, who was just fierce, now stands quietly beside Li Jun like a cute little cat. A painting scroll appeared in front of Li Jun, which is a remnant of ghosts and monsters. She was the most favored noble concubine of the previous dynasty, who grew up in the folk from a young age and had unparalleled snow-white and beautiful features. The emperor is lecherous. She was elected to the court, and the emperor conferred upon her the title of noble consort. The titles of marquis conferred by father and brother, officials, and even a few sisters were conferred the titles of lady of the state, which can be said to be an honor. At that time, the emperor was old and incompetent, the level of governance declined, and treacherous officials were in power in the court. Civil disasters were rampant, and people ate people. The common people could no longer survive and began to rebel. The common people say that it was the noble concubine who deceived the emperor, and only then did the heavens bring down natural disasters, causing the people to struggle. The most terrifying thing was that the imperial army also mutinied, demanding that the emperor execute the noble concubine who caused harm to the country and the people, otherwise the three armies would not deploy. There was no other way, the emperor had to abandon the noble consort in order to protect the country. In front of the three armies, they sent people to strangle the noble consort with white silk. After death, she also cut off her ears and nose, destroying her stunning appearance. The emperor abandoned his noble consort, stabilized his military morale, and preserved his territory. After accepting the remnants of the Gui Guifei, Li Jun sighed and said, "It has always been the fault of a beauty. From now on, you will be called Guifei and be a ghost soldier by my side. Let the past pass, let it pass. Obey my master." The noble consort also lost her free will. Li Jun rested for a moment, and several young palace maids had already turned into a pile of rotten meat, lying on the ground, emitting white smoke. They were born out of the resentment of the noble consort, and if Li Jun subdued the noble consort, they could not exist. Unless Li Jun accepts them as ghost soldiers. However, Li Jun would not do this. Ghost soldiers cannot be cultivated alone, and they need to rely on Li Jun's spiritual power for cultivation. Li Jun himself is not enough. "Master, these are all my burial treasures, all dedicated to my master." With a casual wave of her hand, Li Jun's eyes flickered, and a pile of treasures appeared in his sight. Yellow orange gold artifacts, priceless gemstones, round and large pearl strings, countless embroidered silk and satin, gemstone flower and mother.in.law, and so on. Li Jun's eyes lit up. These burial treasures may not increase cultivation, but they can improve life. Li Jun is now very poor. He starved to death in the midst of poverty and illness, and has not left any wealth for Li Jun. As a traveler, Li Jun could have made a fortune by relying on modern knowledge. All the things like fired glass, cement, soap and perfume are made of money. At worst, it's okay to become a storyteller at a restaurant. The problem is, this world is too strange. Li Jun keeps practicing and hiding his strength, so he doesn't have time to make money. Now that he has obtained so much windfall, it's not bad. Just picked up a pearl, ready to appreciate it, but it was cold and piercing. Upon closer inspection, the pearl turned into white ash. This. Li Jun touched the other jewelry, which turned into white ash and easily dispersed upon touch. After thinking for a moment, he realized that his resentment was too strong, affecting his material possessions. Suddenly, he felt two ghostly auras approaching. Now that he is seriously injured, it is crucial to hide and save his life. Leaving the tomb of the noble consort, the night was already dark. Two wisps of green smoke emerged from a nearby crack, transforming into a human form, one plump and one thin, with a blue face and fang teeth, and a shapely figure. "No, who killed the noble consort?" exclaimed one of the chubby-looking male ghosts. "Kill it, then kill it. What's so strange? Anyone can kill this kind of wild ghost who hasn't registered in the local government. If I were strong, I would also want to suck her up. TSK, what a heavy grudge. This is a piece of fat." The skinny man drool in his mouth and his eyes glow red. The chubby ghost gave him a white glance. I heard that the noble concubine in this tomb is unparalleled in color. He Bo has long been interested in her. As soon as she sheds her body, He Bo will hire a gift to marry her. With He Bo as a guarantor, it is not easy to register in the local government. The chubby man paused and continued. He Bo has already informed the surrounding area that no one can touch the noble consort in this tomb. Why do you want to eat swan meat like a toad? Be careful if you dare to hit the noble consort. The skinny ghost gave a bitter smile and said, the key is that the noble consort has already been attacked first. Let's report to He Bo first. Yes, hurry up. When the two ghosts walked away, Li Jun also walked out of the darkness. Who is He Bo and what is the existence of the underworld? Not long after he had just crossed over, he kept hiding and practicing. Apart from knowing that there were many terrifying beings in this world, he had no idea about the division of power in this world. His sources of information are too few. Hey, little brother. Cold Beauting's figure appeared behind Li Jun and greeted him with a familiar greeting. Hello little brother, I see you have a familiar face. I must have met you before. Meeting each other is fate. We are so destined. Come and come, let me treat you to a drink. Don't be polite to me. Whoever is polite is a bastard. Li Jun slowly turned his head and met a warm smile, unable to roast. When did you secretly keep an eye on me? Li Jun coldly glanced at him, his hands fluttering with thunder and lightning. As long as he had any unusual movements, Li Jun didn't mind killing him on the spot. I could roughly see the coldness in Li Jun's eyes. Mingsheng smiled bitterly and said, Don't, little brother. I really have no malicious intentions. My name is Mingsheng, and I am from the government's Demon Control Department. I just want to make friends with you, little brother, and let's discuss cultivation together. Hee. Li Jun remained unmoved and stared at him. Mingsheng's cold sweat flowed out. Actually I'm not familiar with the government either. I'm just hanging under the name of the Demon Control Bureau, eating empty wages, and doing some low-risk tasks. Judging from my young brother's strong strength, I want to hug him. Don't you want to know who He Bo is, little brother? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The World of Terror. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The World of Terror. Mingsheng looked at Li Jun thoughtfully and said, if I'm right, little brother has just gained strength. Li Jun didn't speak. Mingsheng took a step back and continued, this world is even more cruel and complex than you imagine. As an ordinary person, we often cannot see the truth of the world. It's like little brothers. If you knew a little more, you wouldn't have taken action against the noble concubine of the Imperial Concubine Mausoleum. We heard what the two little ghosts said just now. Do you know who He Bo is, little brother? Mingsheng tilted his head, smiling rather than smiling, with a very flat expression, as if he could control the whole situation. Let's hear it, Li Jun Dao said. Wild mountains and ridges, it's very dangerous at night. Why don't we sit at your house first and talk by candlelight at night? Mingsheng blinked his eyes. Okay, lead the way ahead and wait until you enter the city, said Li Jun calmly. No, with your current strength, are you still afraid that I will ambush you from behind? Mingsheng muttered, although somewhat dissatisfied, still walking ahead. The mountain road was dim, and through the moonlight, Li Jun could barely see the clear path. Suddenly, he saw Mingsheng needing a magic spell, and a glowing ghost shadow slowly rising. Ghost shadows float in mid-air, emitting phosphorescence, and the road surface shines brightly. Is this okay? Seeing Li Jun staring at the ghost, Mingsheng awkwardly smiled and said, the little ghost I just recruited has very weak strength. It's not bad to use it for lighting, but the inverted female ghost you subdued is still powerful. Li Jun did not answer the conversation. Mingsheng chattered on and on alone, and the two of them followed the mountain road all the way to the entrance of Anping County. The city gate is wide open, with a row of lanterns hanging. There were no soldiers guarding the city gate, just an old man dozing off against the wall. The old man heard the commotion, opened his eyes, looked at it, muttered a sentence, and continued to sleep. The city gate of Anping County is never closed at night. The court curfew is a decoration. Hu Mingsheng and Li Jun swaggered into the city. Little brother, where is your home? You come with me, Li Jun said lightly. Li Jun raised his head, looked left and right for a while, and led Hu Mingsheng into a small alley. They decorated the alley with lanterns and hung big red lanterns on the lintel, creating a festive atmosphere. Li Jun walked straight to a door with a plaque reading, Sleeping Fragrance Hall. Several seductively dressed women were soliciting guests and said, Grandpa, come and play. When they saw Li Jun, they all came over with coquettish smiles. Seeing that their bodies were about to lean up, Li Jun silently pushed them away. Good wine and good dishes are on display, don't disturb us. Li Jun and Hu Mingsheng sat in a private room, their eyes wide open. On the table were some chicken, duck, fish, meat, and wine. What do you mean by taking me here, little brother? Hu Mingsheng said with a bitter smile. Didn't you say it's a treat? Whoever is polite is a bastard. I don't want to be a bastard. Li Jun tore off the chicken leg and ate it hard. Hu Mingsheng. Then we can't come to the brothel, can't we go to some serious place? Hu Mingsheng tightened his clothes, looking afraid of being taken advantage of. It's too late, the restaurants are all closed. Li Jun stopped eating and suddenly said seriously, didn't you say you wanted to tell me something? Little brother, have you just gained strength? Without waiting for Li Jun to answer, Hu Mingsheng continued, if I remember correctly, my little brother used to work as a waiter at the Delicious Inn. Don't deny it, you were fired by the store owner and forked out. I was on the scene, and I remember it deeply. Hu Mingsheng exposed his mistake. Li Jun was originally a small commoner. Apart from chopping firewood, he also came to the city to find work during his leisure time. Li Jun did not speak, and even Hu Mingsheng was not prepared to wait for Li Jun's answer. My little brother used to be an ordinary person who couldn't see the truth about this world. Now, he suddenly gained strength. If he doesn't understand constraints, it's easy to cause big trouble. In our country of Jin, there are two bureaucratic systems. One is clear and one is dark, and the other is positive and negative. The Ming dynasty was mainly dominated by the Great Jin dynasty, which governed prefectures, counties, and villages. The Dark One regards the underworld as the highest authority and has jurisdiction over the city god, mountain god, earth god, river god, lake god, well god, etc. Hu Mingsheng spoke eloquently. Li Jun finally understood. The so-called underworld is established by a group of ghosts and gods, such as mountain gods, land gods, water gods, well gods, etc. Essentially, they are still ghosts and monsters, but have only been registered as underworld gods. The naturalized person is a god, known as a ghost god. The rest are lonely souls and wild ghosts. There are also many cultivation sects for humans. Buddhism. With a compassionate heart as the main principle, the doctrine is that all beings are equal, and Buddhist scriptures can soothe the resentment of evil spirits. Taoism. Emphasizing the natural way of Taoism, Taoist scriptures can also exorcise ghosts, but only for exorcism, and have no effect on ghosts and gods who have been registered as gods. Buddhism and Taoism are both relatively pure-minded and have few desires, usually living in seclusion in famous mountains and rivers, and rarely appearing in the world. Yin-Yang Dao. Hu Mingsheng belongs to the Yin-Yang school, which excels in observing feng shui, observing qi, divination, and guarding against ghosts. Spiritual passage. The worship of gods is the main focus, and during battles, they summon gods to come out and fight. The gods they serve vary in size. The more powerful the deity being served, the stronger its strength. If the deity being served is a lonely soul and wild ghost, its strength is average. I understand, the Yin-Yang Dao is controlling ghosts and monsters, the Tongling Dao is controlled by ghosts and monsters. If you look at it this way, I admire the Yin-Yang Dao even more, said Li Jun calmly. Seeing Li Jun praising his own school, Mingsheng felt a bit smug, but when he thought about the situation and status of his school, he felt dejected again. Mingsheng smiled bitterly and shook his head. This world is a world of ghosts and monsters. Our Yin and Yang Dao can only control some low-level lonely souls and wild ghosts. Those who truly possess strong combat power still need to understand the spiritual path. After all, human power is not as strong as ghosts and monsters, only ghosts and monsters can deal with them. Under the jurisdiction of the underworld, ghosts and gods from various regions sit and bless the living beings of each region. Without them, we humans would have been eaten up by wild ghosts long ago. Ghosts bless humans. Li Jun thinks it's a bit of nonsense. Even if they join the divine book, they are still essentially ghosts and monsters. Wild ghosts eat people. It doesn't make sense for ghosts who have entered the realm of the underworld to suddenly become noble and stop eating people. Do ghosts and gods not eat people? Li Jun asked coldly. Mingsheng remained silent for a long time before answering. We also eat, but as humans, we only need to pay a small price to obtain protection, which is still very cost-effective. Our Anping County has always been under the jurisdiction of the Wei River Hebo. Every year, only 10 young girls need to be sacrificed, and Hebo will bless Anping County. Hebo only needs 10 young girls every year, but the desires of wild ghosts are endless. Without restrictions, a high-level fierce ghost can even eat up the population of a county town. Li Jun quietly stared at the chicken legs. He always feels like Mingsheng didn't tell him everything, or does Mingsheng also not know everything? There is essentially no difference between ghosts and wild ghosts. If you become a wild ghost, you can eat and drink recklessly, but if you become a ghost, you can only eat 10 girls a year. Who is still willing to be a ghost? Moreover, in the world that Li Jun has traveled through, both Buddhism and Taoism are extremely powerful beings, whether it is legends or various classics passed down. In this world, both factions seem to have little reputation and unknown strength. Why do these two factions seek seclusion and seclusion? Who is avoiding it? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Octopus Market White Embroidered Pearl. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Octopus Market White Embroidered Pearl. Who is bigger in our Anping County's Zhenemo Sea than in the Wei River and Hebo? Li Jun's question hit his heart. Mingsheng's face suddenly turned pale. For a long time. Hebo usually only asks about human affairs. Li Jun sneered. What do you mean is that if Hebo asks about human affairs, the Demon Control Bureau still has to listen to Hebo? Yes, our human power is still too weak. When encountering powerful and fierce ghosts that harm the human world, we still need to ask Hebo to come forward and suppress them. Mingsheng dared not look into Li Jun's eyes. Li Jun let out a long sigh. He has traveled to this world for so long, feeling a deep sadness for the first time. What are humans? Perhaps humans are just sheep raised by ghosts and monsters, and the practitioners represented by the Demon Control Department are shepherds. Li Jun came up with a terrifying word. The shepherd ghost. Yes, these ghosts and monsters treat humans as their own private sheep, although Mingsheng said that Hebo only eats 10 girls a year. I'm afraid Mingsheng himself won't believe this, let alone Li Jun. Before Li Jun's travels, he lived in modern society. When he was a child, he went to his grandmother's house, which lived in the countryside and raised many sheep. Every year, he would kill the sheep to eat. My grandmother told him not to kill sheep in front of other sheep. Sheep are not stupid, they will understand some things. Living in a daze, sheep can gain more weight. Li Jun slowly took a sip of rice wine and said calmly, I, Li Jun, have gained some strength through some opportunities, but I have no ambition and only want to live a peaceful life. Mingsheng smiled and said, I didn't insist that you join the demon control department. In fact, many practitioners are quite free and casual. It's easy to live a peaceful life. Don't provoke the underworld. Kill the lonely souls and wild ghosts as you please. After killing them, you can go to the Demon Control Bureau to receive rewards. However, do not touch the water ghosts and monsters in the Wei River. It is the private land of Hebo, and it is best not to touch the wild ghosts directly under the jurisdiction of the Yin God. There are many other taboos, and you will know them when you enter the Demon Control Bureau. In fact, hanging in the Demon Control Bureau has great benefits, such as receiving a salary and knowing some internal information. For example, if you know that the noble consort is a ghost covered by the Hebo, you won't touch her, will you? Li Junmu looked at him expressionlessly. Mingsheng was not embarrassed either. He burst out laughing and said, well, let's not mention these things anymore. Let's eat meat and drink alcohol. Mingsheng grabbed the fish and stuffed it into his mouth, eating it with oil flowing from his mouth, like a starving ghost reincarnating. The tattered Taoist robe was dripping with oil and dirt, and he didn't pay any attention to his appearance. After finishing his meal, Mingsheng wiped his mouth and grinned, saying, brotherly, it's almost dawn now. Let's separate now. Let's keep in touch in the future. You should stay indoors lately and wait until the wind blows. Li Jun nodded and said, I understand. Do you have money? Lend me some silver. Mingsheng almost spat out a sip of wine, rolled his eyes, and threw a pack of silver over with a crisp expression. Have you never seen a practitioner who lacks money to spend? Li Jun took the silver and estimated it to be about 20 taels, which can be considered a huge sum of money. 1 or 2 silver coins are worth 1,001 copper coins. A copper coin can eat a large bowl of steaming noodles, 5 copper coins can buy half a pound of fish, and 10 copper coins can go to a restaurant to have a delicious meal. In this world, prices are low, and of course, ordinary people don't have money. 20 taels of silver, if it were for Li Jun's original body, they might not be able to afford it for a lifetime. Coming out of the brothel, it was already light. Li Jun squinted his eyes and looked back. The rows of red lanterns had already been put away last night, and the bustling brothel alley fell into silence. Not right. Li Jun suddenly thought of a question. The common people in this world are very superstitious, and they usually don't go out at night. But brothel alleys are an exception. The brothels in Anping County do business at night. This has almost become a common sense that people know, and Li Jun accepted his original memory, which is why he accepted this common sense. But is common sense always reasonable? Li Jun walked step by step towards the outside of the alley, feeling his footsteps floating in his head heavy and feet light. His mood was extremely heavy. Something must have been overlooked by me. Shaking his head, he didn't think about these trivial matters. The morning air was very fresh, carrying the moist moisture blowing from the Wei River. Baozi, by Baozi, delicious fish and meat Baozi. Treasure fish rice noodles, fresh treasure fish rice noodles are delicious. When the morning market opened, the hard-working vendors opened their stalls early. The steamed buns in the steamer were steaming hot, and the aroma of the fish rice noodles in the pot was overwhelming. Relying on mountains to eat mountains, relying on water to eat water. Anping County is close to the Weihe River. It is rich in fish and shrimp resources. Fish meat stuffed buns, fish rice noodles, etc. are all special snacks here. Li Jun shrugged his nose, smelling the tempting aroma, but was not prepared to buy it to eat. After leaving the brothel alley, Li Jun was not planning to go back to that home. Anyway, he now has money and decided to rent a room in the West Market. After finishing it, he was tired and hungry, so he walked towards the fish market. Today, he was planning to buy some clams and crabs to make himself. When I arrived at the fish market, I could smell a strong fishy smell before even entering, which almost made me nauseous. Embroidered pearl girl, weigh me a few pounds of clams and that basket of crabs, I'll take them all. Li Jun is grand and generous. Okay. The girl selling fish is called Bai Shouju, and she has a good relationship with Li Jun's original body. To be precise, she is very sympathetic to this young man. After Li Jun gathers firewood, he sometimes brings it to the city fish market to sell. He goes back and forth and becomes familiar with Bai Shouju. Bai Shouju picked up several large river clams, cut open their shells, dug out clean meat, and wrapped them in lotus leaves before handing them to Li Jun. Li Jun, why did you come today? Bai Shouju washed her hands with the water from the fish farming. Let's chatter on and on. If you can't find a job, follow my father to fish. At least you won't starve to death. I'll give you this dead fish to eat. That basket of crabs, I'll give it to you at half price. You can take it for 10 won. Hey, clams and crabs are not good things. If you eat too much, you'll get sick. Poor thing. The crabs and clams in this world are particularly cheap, and the rich will never eat them. Poor people only buy some to eat when they crave meat. Bai Shouju obviously thought that Li Jun was craving meat again, so she gave him a dead fish for free. Dead girl. Suddenly, a violent shout came. This fish has just died and doesn't smell. How could it be given away for free? Is there someone like you who is a spendthrift? A strong man dressed in coarse cloth ran over and snatched the dead fish from Li Jun's hand, glaring fiercely at him. This man is the father of Bai Shouju, and Li Jun calls him Bai Shu. Hello Uncle Bai, Li Jun smiled faintly. Uncle Bai was taken aback for a moment. He clearly felt that Li Jun had changed. Before, Li Jun always looked submissive when he saw him. When did you have this indifferent temperament? Li Jun was originally very afraid of Uncle Bai and also particularly fond of Bai Shouju. Uncle Bai naturally didn't want his daughter to marry a poor ghost. Li Jun was not only poor, but also extremely incompetent. If his daughter had followed such a man, her whole life would be ruined. Marrying the fisherman Zhuangzi, you can't marry this bastard Li Jun. Zhuangzi is a bit ugly, without Li Jun. But Zhuangzi has great strength and can do all kinds of work and fishing. Li Jun is just an embroidered pillow. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Little Milk Dog. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Little Milk Dog, Dad. Bai Shouju suddenly tugged at the corner of her father's clothes and said coquettishly, Li Jun is very pitiful. After he was fired by the delicious restaurant, he hasn't found a job. Dad, can you take him fishing? Uncle Bai looked disdainfully at Li Jun. Nizi, this kind of person is not worth our pity. He's lazy, greedy, and poor. If my father doesn't recognize him, he deserves it. Uncle Bai stared at a basket of crabs in Li Jun's hand, his eyes full of disdain. Poverty is not scary, laziness and greed are scary. A normal person finally has some money and usually saves it for marriage. Who would just focus on eating? Do you want me to take him fishing? Dreaming. Uncle Bai was indignant and said, who knows if he did anything illegal. He's a poor guy, where did he get the money to buy crabs? Your father and I don't want to cover up for bad people. Bai Shouju suddenly lifted her head and looked eerily into her father's eyes, saying, we must take Li Jun fishing. Uncle Bai was taken aback for a moment, his expression suddenly blurred. Moo Moo squeezed out a few words from his teeth and said, okay, Li Jun, come over tomorrow. After speaking, Uncle Bai ignored Li Jun no longer and only lowered his head to tidy up the scattered fish intestines. Li Jun quietly looked at these fish intestines. The father and son of the Bai family make a living by fishing. There are no easy professions in this world, and fishing is also very difficult and dangerous. The Wei River is vast, and even after working hard all day, she can't catch a few fish. Going hungry is a common occurrence, and even though she has been through such hard work, Bai Shouju sympathizes with Li Jun very much. She thinks Li Jun is even more pitiful than her. In the past, Bai Shouju would secretly stuff Li Jun some fish intestines, fish gills, and so on. Although this kindness is genuine, Li Jun has never liked to owe anyone. He also wants to repay the genuine kindness. Li Jun looked up at the sky, the sunlight was just right. Can't I save you after all? Then I'll take revenge for you, it's also worth paying back. Li Jun smiled faintly and said, then please trouble Uncle Bai. I will go back today to prepare and come to report to you tomorrow. Holding a whole basket of big crabs and a few pounds of clams, and also purchasing half a bag of rice, Li Jun walked slowly towards his home in the West Market. Passing through the market entrance, the evil energy surged into the sky, and countless ghosts and monsters rampaged and screamed in agony, trying to break through the obstruction of the evil energy and descend into the human world. Li Jun glanced aside and noticed that there have been more new ghosts and monsters lately, and the world is not peaceful. In previous years, only a few powerful ghosts and monsters were born throughout the year, most of them were ghosts, without thinking, floating aimlessly in the air. If it continues to develop like this, the formation will eventually become unbearable. With so many ghosts and monsters descending on the earth and starving for so long, I'm afraid the entire Anping County won't have enough to eat. I don't know if He Bo doesn't care about these things. Li Jun was daydreaming while walking, and soon arrived at his house. Wang Wu next door was sunbathing at his doorstep, chatting with a few men nearby. Li Jun vaguely heard himself saying, "What kind of trash? Sleeping in during the day, poor guy. A group of ignorant people." Li Jun didn't want to pay attention to these people. He opened the door panel, arched into the room, and the doors and windows were tightly closed, making the room very dark. In ancient times, the lighting in houses was poor. Li Jun simply lit tung oil lamps extravagantly during the day, and all the crabs were kept in the water basin, while the clam meat was placed in the cupboard. After a busy night, Li Jun was too tired to take off his clothes. He pulled up the blanket and covered his head before going to bed until the afternoon when the sun was setting. After waking up, I took a cold shower and started making crabs and clams to eat. The crabs are easy to make, washed clean, and covered with a thin slice of ginger on the shell. It's delicious when steamed directly in a steamer. River clams are difficult to cook. Li Jun was particularly fond of eating clams when he was a child. Every time he went back to the countryside to play, he couldn't help but touch and eat clams. Touch a bowl of tender river clams from the past, and spring clams are the best. Take advantage of the freshness, smash them open, and stir-fry them with chili and ginger cubes. The simmering soup is also very delicious. This is the taste of his childhood. I didn't expect to still be able to eat clams inside. Unfortunately, Bai Shouju took the clam meat in advance. The meat was not fresh anymore, and the clams grown in live water were not fat and beautiful. The meat was still old, so she picked up the back of the knife and pounded it carefully. The meat was rotten and slowly simmered in a clay jar. The next day, the sun rose up. The dog is big, run faster. Li Jun carried dry food and a kettle on his back, followed by a small milk dog with yellow fur and a drooping head, slowly moving forward. "Oh, Li Jun, why did you keep a little dog? You don't even have a wife. Why do you have extra food to keep livestock?" As soon as I left, I met Wang Wu, who was mocking me. There were also a few idle men beside Wang Wu, which made it difficult to provoke at first glance. Since befriending a few thugs, Wang Wu's backbone has become tough and he realizes that he is already a human being, so he looks down on Li Jun, the lowest level existence. Sure enough, there is a type of person called a villain. When he loses power, he has a good relationship with you. Once he gets a little better than you, he looks down on his former friends and changes his face faster than flipping through a book. I have surplus food to not raise livestock, can I raise you? Are you a livestock? Li Jun sneered. Wan Wu was extremely angry. Li Jun usually looks honest and not good at words. Unexpectedly, he dares to refute himself today. Is there any royal law? Oh, I was wrong. You're not really a beast, you're like a beast. Li Jun suddenly smiled. You, Li Jun, you have seed. Wait for me. Wan Wudwa trembled and pointed at Li Jun, cursing with gritted teeth. But suddenly, my whole body became cold, like falling into an ice cave. End of this chapter. The 10th Octopus Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The 10th Octopus Master Wan Wu stood on the street in a daze, his face pale and his whole body trembling uncontrollably. In front of him, a female ghost hanging upside down quietly looked at him. The female ghost opened her mouth, her face covered in blood stains, and a deep voice came from her throat. Damn it, I hit evil in the daytime. The thought flashed through Wan Wu's mind, and he tilted his head and fell straight to the ground. Taking back the hanging female ghost, Li Jun did not actually kill Wan Wu. He is a person who has traveled through modern society and has not yet reached the point of casually killing people like grass. If someone looks down on you, scolds you a few times, and insists on killing someone, then there are too many people in this world to kill. For example, Uncle Bai. Pooh, humans are cowardly. If it were me, I would have to skin him alive. I will repay him with my grievances, said the dog angrily. Li Jun said calmly, there's no need. Wan Wu is just a small person. If he has time to entangle himself with small people, it's better to kill a few more ghosts and monsters. Killing ghosts and monsters is what I am best at. Don't hold me back when the time comes. Back then, I fought against all evil beasts with one beast. It is a qilin, which wards off evil and suppresses ghosts and monsters with its bloodline, naturally possessing the capital of arrogance. As the dog grew older, it became more and more excited, and trash talk flowed incessantly, tormenting Li Jun's ears. Li Jun became annoyed and decided not to speak anymore, but instead closed off his hearing. Walk all the way to the fish market. Bai Shu and Bai Shouju had been waiting for Li Jun for a long time. Apart from the two of them, there were also a few acquaintances who Li Jun knew firsthand. Ma Zhuanglu, Yu Dazhu, Li Erwei. These people are ordinary people, as can be seen from their names, they are all lowly names. This world is too cruel, ordinary people are always on the brink of death, and some lower-class people think that cats, dogs, and donkeys are the names of their children. A lowly reputation is easy to support. Uncle Bai gave Li Jun a stern glance and said angrily, why are you only coming now? Slowly, come with me. As a newcomer in the industry, as usual, you must first bow to the Fish Lord. Fish Lord. My surname is Zhang, and my identity is a fishing bully in Anping County. Uncle Bai and others have to pay him for selling fish and fishing. All the stalls in the fish market are also owned by Yu Yi, and Uncle Bai's stall is no exception. Today, with good luck, Yu Yi was patrolling the market, and Uncle Bai led Li Jun to a skinny man. The man is about 50 years old, with a short and muscular figure, dark skin, and a pair of small eyes that exude a cunning light. Uncle Bai, who had just mocked Li Jun with his white eyes, suddenly bent his spine and forced a smile on his face, which was extremely humble. Fish Lord, you're always busy. Let me introduce you to this kid. This is Li Jun who was mentioned to you yesterday. Take a look. Yu Yi had a cold face and glanced at Li Jun, his eyes fixed on ants. I understand. In the next few days, you can take some time to report him to the accounting room. As the old rule is, newcomers will receive 80% of the salary, and those who work for a full year will receive 70%. Li Jun took a deep breath. Is this thing too dark? The ordinary people in this world are too miserable. Not only did he constantly suffer from being devoured by ghosts and monsters, but he was also exploited by the ruling class, just like the history of Li Jun's original time and space. At the end of each dynasty, land consolidation, mountains, rivers, land, forests, fertile fields, and so on all belong to the landlord class, and the poor have no place to stand. Sometimes, even pulling a handful of thatched fields and chopping down some withered branches in the mountains and forests can lead to being beaten and scolded by landlords. There is really no means of production. This world is the same. It seems that the Jin dynasty was also at the end of the dynasty, and the laws of history are always astonishingly similar. By the way, the fish lord seemed to remember something when he suddenly turned his head to look at Ma Zhuanglu and said, "Ma Zhuanglu, yesterday someone accused you of fishing for fish in the Wei River without permission. Is this happening?" Ma Zhuanglu quickly knelt down and trembled, saying, "Yu Yi is unjustly accused. I didn't. No. Yesterday someone saw you climb up from the river, so you must have secretly gone fishing in the river," said the fish master sternly. Ma Zhuanglu frowned as if desperately thinking. He shook his head in pain and said, I don't remember. Yu Yi smiled. He spoke in a slow and gentle tone, "My fish lord has been in charge of the fish market for so many years, and there have always been clear rewards and punishments. Since you have done such shameless things, why do you still have the audacity?" Suddenly. Peel off his forehead, Fish Master suddenly raised his volume with a grim expression. Ma Zhuanglu was stunned for a while before he realized it. He kowtowed desperately, begging for forgiveness. A few thugs walked over with a grim smile, holding sharp knives in their hands. With a swipe, Ma Zhuanglu's forehead fell to the ground. Ah! Ma Zhuanglu was so scared that he shouted loudly. After a while, the shouting became lighter and lighter. He touched his forehead in disbelief, feeling lost. Li Jun carefully observed his expression, and Ma Zhuanglu seemed to have no pain sensation. After the fish master and his group left, Uncle Bai and others gathered around and said suspiciously, "Are you not in pain?" Ma Zhuanglu said in confusion, "I don't know why peeling doesn't hurt. Am I sick?" Everyone couldn't figure it out, so they decided not to think about it. Maybe it was Ma Zhuanglu who suddenly wasn't afraid of pain. Anyway, there are so many unreasonable things in this world. When you can't figure them out, just go around them. Poor people, life is the most important. Li Jun looked at Ma Zhuanglu thoughtfully. Suddenly, he noticed that Bai Shouju was also staring at him. As soon as their eyes met, they quickly avoided each other. All of this was seen by Uncle Bai. He was depressed and always felt a bit like he was luring wolves into the house. What if Li Jun seduced his daughter and ran away? But why did you soften your heart and agree yesterday? Uncle Bai deliberately stood between Li Jun and Bai Shouju, with a protective posture. Li Jun, don't stick to it. Let's go down the river today. Look at your silly appearance, don't be washed away by the river. Uncle Bai's expression was fierce, but Li Jun was not angry at all. There was no thought of anger, he only found it funny. After the fish market storm, Uncle Bai led everyone out of the city gate and soon arrived at the dock, where many boats were parked and ready to depart. We're only waiting for Uncle Bai's boat. Of course, Uncle Bai's ship is also owned by Yu Yi. Uncle Bai has no ownership, only the right to use it. The ship is a bit large, enough for several people to live in it, and the draft is also very deep. The biggest advantage of this type of ship is that it is not easily overturned. Many people have died in the Wei River throughout the dynasties, and it is normal to have a few fierce ghosts born on the vast foundation of the dead. In the strange rural tales of the common people, water is dangerous. Water belongs to Yin and is prone to gathering evil things. Even in broad daylight, water ghosts often shake the boat. If the boat capsizes, a boat of people will undoubtedly die. Li Jun, have you brought all the dry rations? We usually don't go ashore for several days when we leave the ship, and we eat our own dry rations. End of this chapter.